Throughout time, people across the world told each other tales of how they came to be, of heroes and monsters, romance and tragedy, death and rebirth. Mythology helped shape the ancient world, explaining the unexplainable. This is Mythology Unleashed. From Mexico to the southernmost reaches of South America, the countries that make up Latin America are unique and diverse, even amongst themselves, each possessing culture, history, and tradition that make them stand out in humanity's vast tapestry. And from the many oral traditions and mythologies belonging to the peoples of Meso and South America, come a plethora of monsters and nightmarish figures, from ghosts and malevolent spirits, to larger-than-life beasts, to fire-breathers and blood-drinkers. This program will discuss a handful of the most famous and most terrifying monsters of Latin American folklore. Our first monster is the infamous El Cibon, the Whistleman of Venezuelan legend. A grisly figure, Cibon is said to be a gaunt, undead-looking man with a wide-brimmed hat, tall in stature, with some claiming him to be anywhere from 10 to 20 feet tall, and carrying on his back a sack filled with bones. There are a number of differing stories as to how Cibon came to be. None of them are pleasant in nature. One story says he was once a spoiled child who had killed his father for failing to bring home a deer from his hunt, cutting out his heart and liver for his mother to cook. Another tale says the boy killed his father after the father had raped and killed a woman he fancied. And yet another story says he killed his father after he was led to believe that he would never change, never grow. The boy was then cursed by his mother, and his grandfather brutally tortured him for his sins, violently lashing him with a whip, dousing his wounds with alcohol and chili pepper, and releasing him to be hunted down by hungry, rabid dogs, and ultimately killed. The boy's mother's curse took effect, and El Cibon was left to wander the wilds for all eternity, stalking and killing all who would cross his path, with a particular emphasis on drunkards, womanizers, and abusers. When on the hunt, El Cibon emits a melodic whistling tune that grows quieter as he zeroes in on his victims. He may even appear outside of houses on rainy nights, dropping its bones in order to count them. Should one hear the bones before dawn, they would be safe. But if no one hears it, someone in the household will soon die. A chilling specter indeed, but it should be noted that El Cibon is terrified of dogs. Even mimicking the sound of barking would be enough to scare it away. From the legends of the Aztecs come stories of Ahuizotl, a unique creature among aquatic mythical monsters, and a fierce guardian of lakes and rivers around Tenochtitlan. It had short, waterproof fur, small pointed ears, a smooth body, and a black tail, at the end of which sprouted a hand much like a human being's. The bane of fishermen, and any person or animal who got too close to the water's edge, the creature would latch onto its victims using its tail hand, and with uncanny strength, drag them to the watery depths, drowning them and eating the remains, having a particular fondness for the eyes, teeth, and fingertips. The Ahuizotl had two methods to lure victims to the water. The first method entailed emitting a wail akin to a human baby's cry. Another, more magical method would cause all of the frogs and fish in the body of water to jump to the surface enticing fishermen to the water's edge for the creature to eat. Though the Ahuizotl was greatly feared, the Aztecs believed that those who fell victim to the creature would be welcomed to Tlalocan, a beautiful paradisical afterlife, lorded over by the water god Tlaloc. Many believe that the legend of Ahuizotl came about from misidentification of a river otter or some other aquatic mammal. But to this day, Ahuizotl is said to be out there, existing as a cryptid in isolated waterways in Mexico and Central America. Snakes have been feared all over the world for millennia, and Brazilian folklore tells of a giant snake that could control and breathe fire, Boitada. Hailing from the native Tupi people of Brazil, Boitada resembled a gigantic anaconda with great fiery eyes, and was sometimes said to be wreathed in great flames that glowed brightly in the darkness of the jungle. As the story goes, in the ancient days there was a time of long darkness, and a great deluge that killed many animals and forced others to seek safety far away. Among the displaced survivors was Boitada, at the time merely a giant cave anaconda, who proceeded to eat the eyes of the dead beasts of the forest, filling it with the inner light of the creatures. Upon the snake's death, all the light within its body escaped to the sun, and the dark days came to an end. But by some magical means, Boitada lived on in spirit, lurking in the Amazon rainforest, often appearing at night as nothing but two glowing, fiery eyes that may enchant travelers, not unlike phantom lights such as will-o'-the-wisps from Celtic lore. In its new form, Boitada acted as a protector of the rainforest, breathing fire and incinerating those who would harm the jungle by felling trees or ripping apart the foliage. In addition to its pyrokinesis, some say that it could camouflage itself as a tree trunk and then attack any lumberjack or arsonist unfortunate enough to attempt to chop it or burn it. If this was not scary enough, it was also said to blind or drive to insanity those who would gaze into its eyes. From Mexican legend comes one of the most famous examples of the White Lady ghost motif, La Llorona. As with other types of White Lady spirits, La Llorona was a tragic ghost that resembled a gorgeous human woman, dressed in a flowing white gown that seemed to blow even when the air was stagnant. As the legend goes, the one who would become La Llorona was once a beautiful woman named Maria, who married a handsome and wealthy man. But her husband abandoned Maria and their two sons for another woman. Racked with guilt, Maria drowned her two sons in a nearby lake, and shortly thereafter died upon the shores of the same lake. Her melancholy spirit was condemned to haunt the shores of freshwater sources, weeping for her lost children. Should anyone, particularly children, find themselves on riverbanks or lake shores after dark, they risk encountering La Llorona, who may drown them as she had done to her own children. Though she is one of a number of White Lady spirits said to roam the nighttime world, and a classic example of a boogeyman to keep children from wandering about after dark, sightings of La Llorona continue to this day, even outside of Mexico, from the southwestern United States to the northern reaches of South America. Latin America's most famous cryptids are El Chupacabras, a fascinating vampire originating from Puerto Rico and said to be seen throughout the Caribbean, the southwestern United States, and all the way to the southernmost reaches of Central America since the 1990s. Chupacabras were blamed for attacks on livestock and other domestic animals, leaving behind carcasses that were uneaten, yet were entirely drained of blood. Alleged witnesses in the South described a creature that stood upright and resembled a reptilian kangaroo with huge red eyes and prominent fangs. Further north, however, Chupacabra would gain a more mammalian appearance, with alleged witnesses claiming that it looked like a large feral dog, again with burning red eyes and unearthly fangs. Some say that appearances of Chupacabra aligned with UFO sightings in the area, indicating the beast was alien in origin, while others believe that the Chupacabras were a super-secret military experiment gone wrong and escaped from a lab and into the wild. Whatever the explanation may be, Chupacabras are among the world's most famous cryptids and vampiric monsters. Ghost dogs are a phenomenon found practically worldwide, and one such legend hailing from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Costa Rica is known as El Cadejo. Appearing as a large dog that wanders isolated roads and wild paths by night, El Cadejo could either be as dark as night with burning red or purple eyes, or white as snow with sapphire blue eyes. The white Cadejo was the benevolent of the two, protecting those it encountered from evil, including other spirits that would wish them harm. The black Cadejo, on the other hand, was a predatory beast that some say was the devil or another demonic entity in canine form, noted for its vile stench of sulfur and urine. The presence of the black Cadejo was enough to drive people into acts of cruelty and evil, but its primary goal was to eat human flesh, whether it be an unattended newborn infant or a lone traveler wandering about by night. Though as terrifying as this creature could be, if the white Cadejo was nearby, it would commit no harm to any living soul. The tradition of El Cadejo would later be changed to suit a more Christian narrative, but to this day, El Cadejo, in both white and black forms, remains one of the most prevalent of the ghost dog and hellhound legends of the world. Little folk are said to inhabit nearly every environment on Earth, and in the Peruvian Amazon is said to lurk Chuyachaki. The Chuyachaki was a dwarf-like creature that possessed two different feet, perhaps one larger than the other, or one pointed backwards or hoofed, and the ability to shapeshift into any person or creature he chooses in order to play tricks on those who would enter the jungle, be they native or tourist. The creature would often take the shape of someone that the victim trusts, luring them deep into the forest and then abandoning them, leaving even the most adept utterly lost. The only clue to the Chuyachaki's true identity is its feet, which, even in the form of another, remain unequal and disfigured. The Chuyachaki would keep up the act as long as possible, but if he were to be discovered, the dwarf would escape into the jungle, and perhaps try again another day. Other antics that the Chuyachaki would engage in include stealing away children in order to play games with them, or even raise them as one of their own, or challenging random men to a fight, cursing those who decline with a crescendo of misfortune. Though the Chuyachaki is a trickster figure whose antics may lead to harm, first and foremost, the creature is a devout defender of the jungle, protecting it from those it would deem a threat to the trees and those living in and beneath them. Our final monster of this program is a demon from Maya mythology, Camazotz, the deathbat of Xibalba. Depictions of Camazotz portray him as either a large man with the head and wings of a bat, or as a larger-than-life bat with a nose shaped like a flint knife. As a messenger and enforcer of Xibalba, the land of the dead in Maya legend, Camazotz was fiercer than nearly anything else the world had to offer. Both mortal and immortal were said to fear him. In accordance with his monstrous appearance, Camazotz possessed animalistic fury that was second to none, utilizing immense size and strength, aerial capability, and thirst for blood to the utmost degree, making Camazotz nigh impossible to defeat in hand-to-hand combat. A favored tactic involved attacking his enemy's neck and wrenching their head clean off their shoulders. There are a number of tales where Camazotz's bloodlust knows no bounds, such as during the creation of mankind in the age of the first sun, when humanity was defiant against the gods, breaking laws and refusing to grant sacrifices. In order to wipe the slate clean, the gods unleashed demonic beasts led by Camazotz himself to wipe out the entire human race, so that the gods could begin again. As the fearsome embodiment of nighttime, sacrifice, and of death itself, Camazotz was a strong reason for why many of the region feared the dark. These few are but a handful of the many different monsters said to haunt and roam Latin America. Whether these creatures were created as a means to explain something not yet known, or a means to frighten people into behaving, or simply created for entertainment purposes, these monsters all are strange, captivating, and have left a lasting impact on culture. From giant skeletal creatures, to shape-shifting dwarves, to phantom dogs, to fire-breathing snakes and massive bats. The monsters of Latin America have frightened and thrilled countless generations, and will continue to ignite the imaginations of countless more to come.